I finally cut off my manipulative friend, but I can't stop thinking I might be in the wrong.
Don't overthink it. Keep them cut off.
Yeah,
No questions.
that was definitely not overthought, I'll tell you that. I've been dealing with a really difficult situation involving a former friend, and I'm torn about whether I'm in the wrong for stepping back from the friendship. By the way, this comes from user wildpayment3315 on the r/OK storytime subreddit. So, for privacy reasons, I've changed all the names in the story. Here's who they are. Tammy, my former friend, who has been emotionally impulsive. Oh, we might need the board for this. We've got Tammy, the former friend who has been emotionally impulsive and manipulative in our friendship. Yes. And then there's Amira, a mutual friend and advocate for marginalized communities. There's Jessica, another mutual friend who seems to be on Tammy's side. And Samantha is Tammy's daughter. So to continue on with the story, I'm posting here to get an outside perspective because this situation has been emotionally exhausting and I want to make sure I'm handling it in the best way possible. I've been dealing with a difficult situation with someone who was once my friend, and I'm torn about whether I'm in the wrong or not. To give some context, this person, whom I'll refer to as Tammy, has a trans son. Tammy has a tendency to be emotionally impulsive and often does things without taking accountability for them. For example, a while ago, she accused a man of sending her exploitive material on Instagram during a TikTok live. The material was spicy in nature, but she claimed it involved children, which it did not. Whoa! That is a crazy accusation to levy at someone. Dude!
That's a big claim.
Dude, like that's like you go to jail for saying that about someone when that's not true. Damn. That can ruin someone's entire life.
Yeah.
Instantaneously. Woof. This happened around the same time that she had a falling out with 4 of our mutual friends who felt she wasn't taking responsibility for her actions. Tammy's emotional response to the situation was to kick everyone out of the group chat on Instagram, something she's done multiple times before when things don't go her way.
That's exhausting to be friends with that type of person.
Tammy just sounds like not a fun time for anybody. So, she tends to push people away and make things about her, which has made it really hard for me to maintain a healthy relationship with her. During that time, I stood by her despite disagreeing with how she handled the situation with the man, but I didn't agree with her actions. She never apologized to the man, nor did she apologize to me for how she treated me during that time. Around the same time, Tammy said some hurtful things to me, which felt dismissive of my experiences. She implied that I just needed to try harder in a way that minimized my struggles, especially as a trans person. Oh, so OP is also trans. She went on to compare my struggles to her son's journey, highlighting how he had mental health issues in the past but had overcome them, now living in California with a beautiful girlfriend, engaged and thriving.
And she's comparing that to OP. She's like, you should try harder. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Stop comparing people's journeys.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, you're thieving all that joy.
Put it on my tombstone. It felt like she put him on a pedestal, and it made me feel like my experiences, particularly as a trans person, didn't matter. Her words were hurtful, and it seemed like she was more focused on her son's story as a success narrative rather than recognizing the validity of my own. Tammy also told me that she was looking for me to be responsible because apparently she thought I somehow wasn't showing responsibility. I was completely taken aback by this, especially since I had admitted when I'd done something wrong every single time. More specifically, I apologized to Tammy for trauma dumping on her several times. I owned up to the fact that I was trauma dumping, and I apologized and I owned up to it. I do not know where she's coming from with these allegations of me not taking responsibility. To me, that is responsibility. I don't understand what she expects from me. What else is she asking for when I've already owned my actions? It's disheartening that I'm in my late 20s and yet she, in her 50s, is acting more like a teenager, not someone who is older than me.
Why are you friends with her?
She's not an elder in any sense, and the way she behaves is really disappointing. Around the same time Tammy began worrying that I would leave her too and sent me thousands of messages expressing her fear that I would abandon her just like the other friends had. I hadn't responded for a while because I was at work, but she became fixated on this idea that I was going to leave her, even though I was just busy.
Yeah.
Her worry and desperation came off as manipulative, and it seemed like she was trying to emotionally control me into staying in the friendship on her terms. Meanwhile, this is the person who kicked all of her friends out of the group chat.
Yeah, it's like she's
disagreeing
already
with them.
pushing people away, and then she's trying to pull them back.
Yeah.
Which is just a very manipulative person, you can see.
Yeah.
Also, Josephine, just to clarify, OP is a trans person, and then I think that Tammy has a daughter named Samantha and a trans son. I think there's two separate people.
Yeah, could be.
That's my understanding of the story.
I mean, like, you could also theoretically have a trans son who goes by Samantha.
That's also true.
Right? It's like, the world is a complex place. This has been a recurring issue with, I guess, Tammy. She doesn't seem to know how to emotionally regulate, and it often feels like I'm caught in a cycle of her needing constant reassurance. She doesn't seem to understand boundaries or take responsibility for her actions. It seems like if she doesn't get the reaction she wants, she just throws a tantrum or tries to guilt people into sticking around. To add to that, when I reached out to Amira, another friend who we'll mention shortly, who is the cool friend,
yeah,
the cool friend.
Cool.
I reached out to Amira on Tammy's behalf. Tammy asked me to try and get some resolution between her and Amira because they both call out problematic people on TikTok and advocate for marginalized communities. However, Tammy wanted to join forces with Amira to start calling people out together, but she failed to acknowledge that Amira was going through her own struggles at that point. Tammy didn't take Amira's personal situation into account and just moved forward with the plan without thinking about what Amira was experiencing at the time. It felt selfish because Tammy didn't consider how this might impact Amira's well-being. All of this came after I reached out to Tammy because of the situation that happened with my family on Thanksgiving. My family was not accepting of me as a trans person, and I was reaching out for support. Instead of providing support, Tammy turned it into something about her and her experiences, further distancing me from her. On top of this, Tammy said that I did not ask how she was doing before starting to talk to her about my family situation. This is a lie because every single time that I would ever talk to her, whether it was through text or on the phone, I would always ask her how she was doing. The four friends ultimately left Tammy because of her actions, her impulsivity, and how she handled things. They also felt it was a liability to be associated with her. I can't blame them for feeling that way. Yeah, especially after like the false allegations we talked about at the beginning.
I think you just need to also kind of go that route because she seems like a lot to deal with. A piece of work, I gotta say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is not somebody to just be like, well, whatever. We'll just keep hanging out, I guess.
This is a really taxing friendship.
Yeah. On top of everything, Tammy's daughter, Samantha. Okay, so
so there's a daughter and two children.
Tammy's daughter, Samantha, has posted things on TikTok indirectly targeting me. I responded in kind because I don't believe I should be intimidated into feeling bad about myself or what I did. I stood up for myself and I won't be manipulated into feeling guilty for that. It's exhausting to constantly feel like I need to justify my actions and who I am just to maintain peace. As for Jessica, the mutual friend who was taking
Tammy's side,
I feel like she's taking sides and favoring Tammy more. I'm not sure what it will take for her to see the situation for what it is. Maybe she'll have to experience an encounter with Tammy herself to understand. Some people don't learn unless they go through things like that, unfortunately. Additionally, I want to touch on how Tammy has been incredibly ableist towards me. Both in the past and more recently, she dismissed my experience and struggles as a trans person. When I was going through difficult times, she demanded that I seek mental health, even though I've already sought help in the past and I'm not currently in a position to do so. I don't have health insurance to pursue therapy or counseling, and the hospitals around here aren't always the best, especially when it comes to mental health care for queer people. Tammy knows this, but despite that, she insisted that I go to the hospital. It's frustrating because she claims to be an ally to the LGBTQ+ community, but her actions tell a completely different story. Her dismissiveness and demand for me to quote-unquote fix myself was incredibly ableist and just added more pressure to an already difficult situation. I don't know if I agree with that.
What?
Well, I mean, the being like, go here, like, well, I've been to that hospital, it doesn't work. But and clearly Tammy is like, from everything else we've seen, is not a great friend or a great person. But I think someone telling you like, hey, you should get help for that, whatever it is, I don't think that's...
I don't think it's necessarily a bad or like outright a bad thing, but I think it depends on the context.
Yeah.
Like here it seems like Tammy was badgering OP about it, and OP was like, I can't afford this.
Mm-hmm. But
like,
just
this
not,
is not,
on the surface. I just don't want anyone to get the wrong idea that on the, if you think a friend needs help and you want to tell them that they should try to get help, by all means, you can express that.
Yeah.
I was blocked by Tammy after the aftermath of me trying to seek support from her after the situation that happened with my family on Thanksgiving. Tammy also threatened me, saying that if I was still friendly with the friends that had abandoned her, that she would expose me on social media.
For what?
Yeah, exactly. For what?
For being friends with people?
Yeah, this is absurd.
Yeah.
Remember, this all happened over TikTok, but Tammy was involved in 4 different activism groups in her local area, and every single one of those activism groups kicked her out. I suspect she was kicked out of these groups because she has a tendency to want everybody to listen to her. It's almost like she wants to control everything and have her daughter involved in everything as well. And by the way, we want all of you involved in our live streams when we go live every weekday at 3 p.m. PST on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch. All you got to do is tap on our profile.
Tap that profile.
And you're in. And if you're not in, tap it again. Keep tapping until you're in, baby.
Keep tapping until we appear. And then we're talking to you.
Then you know you're in the live.
Yeah.
So we do have a little bit more story left. But I think,
I'm a little confused what would the blow up, like the initial blow up thing was, but it seems like Tammy is just making mountains out of molehills left and right. And just doesn't seem like a good person to be trying to get support from. Because it seems like OP's multiple times has tried to get support from Tammy, and she seems like the worst person to get that from. So we just need to drop her.
Is not a person built for support. So let's finish this story. Now I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole here. I've had to set boundaries with Tammy multiple times, and she doesn't respect them. She's constantly in a cycle of drama, and it's exhausting. At this point, I feel like I've given her so many chances, but I'm not sure if I can keep doing this.
Don't keep doing it.
Yeah, just don't keep.
No
You're
one's
right.
making you.
You're right.
Yeah.
Note, I'll change. All the names are changed, of course. Am I wrong for stepping back, or is this just the reality of dealing with someone who's emotionally unstable? Am I the a-hole?
No.
I mean, low key, yeah, it is the reality of dealing with someone who's emotionally unstable.
But that doesn't mean you have to deal with them.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be your reality. It's like you don't just have to be like, well,
I guess this is my lot.
I guess I'm going to have to be this person's like punching bag my whole life because they're emotionally unstable. Guess I got to cut off all my friends because this person's emotionally unstable. It's like
if someone is not,
you don't have to do that.
If someone is not just being a good friend or is not benefiting your life, and I don't mean that from like giving you things, but like just like emotionally benefiting your life, you don't have to continue being friends with them.
You don't. Or on the same token, if you feel like your friends aren't buying you enough nice things, you also don't have to be friends with them. But also, I would question whether or not your priorities and your morals are straight for doing that.
Might be a little bit out of whack.
But it's great. We live in a world where we're free to do whatever we want.
Anything.
Kind of, within reason.
Mm-hmm. Dang, man, that's the end of that.
That is the end of that.
And
our buddy, our friend, our good old pal. If you love us, make sure you subscribe.
We love you.
And see you tomorrow.